All right, let's get into some fun stuff then.
That's right.
Guys on record talking to the media, talking about the team. That guy being Harold Landry.
Ooh.
Big free agent signing this offseason, will be one of the anchors of the defensive line. I want to start with this one, T.
Okay.
Here's Harold Landry when asked, hey, man, when you were released by the Titans, did you have your eyes on New England right away? Here's his answer.
That was definitely kind of the case. Once I saw how things were going and, the writing was on the wall, this was definitely a place that I wanted to be. I was getting excited about the staff he was putting together, and I just feel like this was the right place for me, and I'm excited to be here.
He saw the staff Mike Vrabel was putting together and said, you know what? I want to go play there. Now, yes, he's a veteran, and he got paid a hefty chunk to come there.
Yeah, it didn't hurt.
But it's this team again building back to credibility and being respectful around the league.
Yeah.
No more of the DK Metcalfs. I'm not going there. There's too many syllables in Massachusetts.
Right.
Like, guys could get those jokes off because New England has become a laughingstock around the league.
Facts.
Look at what they've done. Back-to-back 4-win seasons, firing the greatest head coach of all time. Now, just literally looking like they fielded a JV team from Wakefield High on the field. Like, it was a joke of the football product. They put a staff together, and we'll talk more about Terrell Williams in just a few minutes. But it's Mike Vrabel, becoming the head coach. And you and I was the guy that was for Ben Johnson. Yeah. But it's getting a head coach players revere and respect around the league. And then it's his coaching staff, too, where players are looking and going, I want to play for that. Because you could have the respectful head coach, Trav, and a Bill Belichick.
Sure.
If his offensive coordinator is Matt Patricia, who the hell wants to play there?
That's a good point. By the way, I know you're a workout meathead, dude.
Yeah.
Did you see the traps on, bro?
Yep.
I mean, my God. Is that the Bane workout plan? Like, the traps were trapping right there. I completely agree with everything you said. You were all over this. I mean, once Vrabel got hired and this guy got released by the Titans, you were all over that. You said this is going to happen, and it was a foregone conclusion. And you were right. Now it's a case of come in and be what they brought you in to be, right? Help build the culture, as you said. You're a veteran guy. You know the drill with these dudes. You know the staff. Let's see it pay off. To my understanding, I don't necessarily think it's a production thing. I think it's going to be a health thing, okay? He should now being this far removed from his injury, he should be 100%.
Torn ACL in 2022.
That's right, and he should be able to return to his old form and not be an old man. Yeah. That's what I want to see.
And for what it's worth, first season back, his snap count was around 70%.
Yeah.
Now, this past season, 85%.
It's time now, right?
Yeah, but this is also a guy, too, that lost the season to his torn ACL.
Yeah.
But with the system that he was in, it was Denard Wilson as a defensive coordinator for the Titans, I believe. Came from that Todd Bowles scheme.
Yeah.
Different type of scheme of what Terrell Williams ran.
Sure.
In fact, here's him when he was asked about playing for Terrell Williams and Mike Vrabel.
When I say working together, it's like, I don't know, they do a great job of figuring out who they have on the roster on that side of the ball, what are their skill sets, and putting them in position to be successful. I feel like that's what they've done with me, and that's what they've done with a lot of great players in Tennessee and what I expect them to do here. I feel like we have a very talented roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm excited of, the pieces and where they're going to place people and, what they're going to do with all of us. But they're definitely a tight-knit group, and I like that. You can expect them to, because, throughout the season, stuff's going to happen, you know what I'm saying? And it's nice to know that this staff is going to stay in the foxhole, stick together, and they're going to find a way to come out and find a way to be successful.
Be in the foxhole together. So I like that, but I just want to start with that, how he identifies that. They understand what a player's strength is, and that's where they're going to put them.
Yes.
They understand guys that fit, and they're going to coach to bring the most out of that player. That's what you want. Because even last year, Trav, when we were watching that Rams-Patriots game, and the Pats are blitzing Matt Stafford to death.
Yep.
And the graphic comes up. Stafford is so efficient. I think at that point, 3 of his touchdowns against the blitz. Patriots on cue, graphic goes away. You see it on the screen. Blitz, long touchdown to Cooper Kupp. And that was in DeMarcus Covington, a first-time defensive coordinator.
That's it.
Wanting his scheme to work, and it didn't work with the personnel. These are guys that adapt to what they have. And now they run their scheme, and they acquire players in so. So I also think it was the second half of his answer, too, where he's saying, like, man, they just do a great job figuring out who they have, figuring out their skill sets, and knowing how to make them successful.
Yeah, how often do we hear that in the league, though, from really high-end to great coaches, is they know their personnel. I was told this years ago that, the best coaches in sports, again, this isn't just a football thing. The best coaches in sports figure out what they have talent-wise, figure out everyone's strength, and then they acquiesce to that as a collective to figure out the identity. It's not always my system, right? My system is this. You either run it or you can't, or you're gone, and I'll get someone who can. Not to say we haven't seen coaches with that success too, but generally when you go to that upper echelon of greatness in terms of coaches and scheme schematically, it's know your personnel and play to the strengths. And that's what he's saying here. And then you gave such a great example of a rookie coaching fraternity last season that couldn't get it done because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And I think it was both. I think it was trying to figure out what do we have talent-wise in terms of personnel, but then schematically, what are we doing? And that is a recipe for absolute disaster, which is what we had last season. So now you have grown-ups in the room. And you talked about that Matt Stafford-Rams game, and you're right. But we were watching that game together, and we were saying they cannot, and we said this to many Patriots games. They couldn't manufacture a pass rush. So, of course, you have to blitz. I think now with the way this defense is being built, and we'll see what they do on draft night, because if you get Travis Hunter, my God. But, the way this defense is being built now, you may not necessarily have to blitz. You may be able to manufacture pass rush with the players you have here, Landry being a big part of that, obviously. And then you can mix and match. We blitz here. We show blitz here, but we drop back. Our front guys are just going to get to you on this, and we're dropping everyone back. When you have the right personnel, and as he said, you're playing to the strengths of your players, it opens up the playbook, and you can do all the above.
It's a Harold Landry who had Terrell Williams as his defensive line coach first 6 years in the league. Of course, lost one to torn ACL, but was using that wide nine pass rush, which is what Terrell Williams is going to have in the system here. And when he was in Terrell Williams' system, he was used almost exclusively to rush outside of the offensive tackle.
Right.
And in his last season with the Terrell Williams, his time to pressure was one of his best. And again, that's coming off a torn ACL too. This past season, time to pressure was a career low, but that's with a different defensive coordinator. And when he talks about that too, it's important to keep in mind a Jeffrey Simmons, very successful defensive tackle who led to a lot of success for Harold Landry.
Sure did.
Is 6'4", 305. Christian Barmore, 6'4", 315. Both of those guys primarily a pass rusher in the B gap, 3-eye tech, but can line up out over the offensive tackle and pass rush from there too. Can do both, so that fits his scheme. And this is a Christian Barmore, the biggest question mark. But also, the other day looking at a Patriots posting photos of those workouts beginning, and Christian Barmore was one of those players posted on their social media. I don't think a team would do that if they weren't really confident with the status of a Christian Barmore can do, which is exciting to hear. Now, here was Harold Landry talking about playing for Mike Vrabel and why they won so many games as an underdog.
Honestly, I think it was mainly just because we were such a close-knit group, and we really valued each other and we played hard for each other. We didn't want to let each other down, and I think that showed on the film and on the tape. But also, I feel like one of the main jobs for a head coach is to make sure your team's prepared situationally. And all I know is as long as I played for Braves, there was never a situation I wasn't prepared for. I don't care what the score was in the fourth quarter. I don't know. We just always had a feeling that we was going to pull this out. It didn't matter what the score was going into the fourth. And we just always found a way to win. It's crazy. We just found a way to win. And that was just kind of the mentality. We just didn't think we could lose, to be honest, no matter what was going on in the game.
No situation they weren't prepared for. Sounds like a Bill Belichick. But the mentality, he talks about the brotherhood, how close the players are. The big thing for Mike Vrabel is building relationships. Harold Landry also spoke about respecting the team, treat the team. How you treat the team is how I'll treat you. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But the big thing is, wasn't a situation you weren't prepared for or didn't know. The confidence that gives your guys. And going into any fourth quarter, they understood that they could win any game because their coach wouldn't let them down. Exact opposite. And it's Gerard Mayo was set up for failure. He was set up for failure a million times over.
He was.
But exact opposite what they had with Gerard Mayo, but also exact opposite what they had with Bill Belichick the last two seasons. Because imagine being a player busting your ass Monday through Saturday to be ready to play on Sundays.
Yep.
And in 1 year, you're looking over, and I'm picking on him, but it's just still the most asinine thing I can ever imagine of having Matt Patricia and Joe Judge run your offense.
Ugh.
And then the next year,
Gross.
you're dealing with Mac Jones throwing fits and temper tantrums on the field. Yep. And yes, you have a Bill O'Brien, but the only assistant coach he was given to pick
That's right.
was his assistant tight ends coach.
Yeah.
What confidence can you have in your coaching? Yes, at all, in your head coach, if he's setting the team up for failure like that. Exact opposite what they're getting. And it's cool to hear Harold Landry talk about it from that perspective of it.
Sure it is. And I was harking back to those Titans teams, to be honest, because as you know, George, I mean, everything always comes back to gambling for me. And, I mean, I had a lot of bets taking the Titans to cover spreads where they were dogs, and I had a lot of bets to taking them to win outright, especially during that playoff run they had where they beat the Ravens and they got some things done because of everything Landry just pointed out and what you knew you got from a brand standpoint from Vrabel. The defense is always going to be there. They're always going to be buttoned up. He's going to handle the clock. They're going to be prepared. Those Tennessee teams were limited offensively. Everyone's quick to bring up Derrick Henry, but this is a passing league, okay? So Derrick Henry's fantastic. How many Super Bowls has he won? You got to have a passing game, and they never really had it. Even when Tannehill was at his best, it wasn't enough. So I can't help but to think that style that Landry's talking about here is going to translate here to New England, and we've seen it so far in the offseason, certainly with free agency, but let's see when we get to draft night too. But we all think the defense is going to be majorly improved. And so if you can kind of take that same DNA, defense is going to keep us in games. We're going to win some games we don't have any business winning because the defense keeps us in games. And now the X factor will be both Josh McDaniels and Drake May. If that combo can be special and better than just good, just slightly above good like Tannehill at his best. Tannehill at his best was just slightly above average. If you can get special with Drake May and Josh McDaniels,
they will
watch out now.
And
watch out.
That was Mike Vrabel working with a Arthur Smith.
Right.
Matt LaFleur, who halfway through his tender figured out to give Derrick Henry the football and run the ball with him.
What a genius.
And that's if you take away the final season for Mike Vrabel as well.
That's
where
right.
Ryan Tannehill was more washed than washed.
Yep.
They went 6-11 that season.
Yep.
His coaching record so far, 54-45. You take that off, that's a head coach that's 48-34 over the span of his career.
Right.
With a serviceable quarterback and a really good running back and a defense that produces.
Yeah.
14 games above 500. Just one losing season in his first 5 years at the Tennessee Titans. Then finally, here's Harold Landry. He was talking about there's some music playing in the facilities now, the energy Mike Vrabel's bringing in. Here's Harold Landry talking about that.
Just like upbeat. He wants everybody to be excited when they come to work. He's big on that. He's big on energy. And yeah, that's just who he is. He's, everybody looks at him as his head coach, but he's really just one of the boys, a locker room guy, and I really mean that. He wants to get to know you, know about your family and everything that goes along with being in a relationship with you. And that's pretty much, he's the same guy every day too. Very consistent person. He's not going to switch it up on you at all. And that's what you can expect. And he's big on treating you how you treat the team. You treat the team with respect. He's got nothing but respect for you.
Cares about you, asking about your family.
Yeah.
I mean, it boils down to this. You're going to fight harder. You're going to work harder. You're going to do more for someone that cares about you than someone that seems like they don't give an F about you.
Of course.
So it's cool. And I'm not saying Gerard Mayo didn't do that. I'm not saying Bill Belichick didn't do that. But for a head coach to, push that forward, and then it always comes back. And from day one, Mike Vrabel said it, Trav. Respect. You respect the team, I'm going to respect you. How you treat the team's how I will treat you. You do everything for the team, I'll do everything for you to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's all. It's so simple. It's not just all the X's and O's they have to get into.
Yeah.
And he talks about the vibes and playing music. That's fun. The energy. He's happy to be there. Him and Terrell Williams, he said they're happy to be in the facility every day. That's great. When you build something based off the simplicity of respect, that's what's big, and that's what builds a culture.
I want to ask you, do you remember when we did the Vrabel introductory press conference here on Nesson? We were live for that.
Yeah.
And we took his press conference, obviously full, live, and then at the end we reacted.
Yeah.
One of the sound bites that jumped out to you and me both, if you remember, was Vrabes. That the question was sort of, which was a good one, was sort of, what can you take from the Titans gig that you learned, good and bad, and bring it here and implement it in New England? And his answer was the relationships, which you and I were like, it sort of piqued our interest because players talk about Vrabel lovingly, like Landry, but we were like, Vrabel said he wanted to improve on the relationships.
Yeah.
It may not, the way you and I took it at the time was it may not necessarily mean players. It could mean those are around the organization, but maybe it is players too. Maybe there are some relationships with players that slip through the cracks in Tennessee, and Vrabel knows it. So you bring in a guy like Landry that you had no such issue with. You bring in a guy who loved you, and you loved him, and now he can help preach that gospel that Vrabel's trying to preach, and then Vrabel can be even better relationship-wise with the players. I can't help but to think about that moment with Vrabel, George, that you and I witnessed when Landry was talking about sort of his aura and his vibes and his energy.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to point out, and that jumped out at us. It was that and him even saying, big thing for me, if a guy's dealing with something,
yes,
take that half hour at the beginning of your day, take care of it.
That's right. You're talking about Vrabel now.
Yeah, Vrabel saying this, like,
yeah.
we will provide the resources. You need to talk to someone, not me. Go do it.
That's right.
Take care of that the first half hour of your day. Get it done instead of having that weigh on you for 7 straight hours. Mm-hmm. It's caring about the people, and that's modern day. There are people that probably roll their eyes. Man, soft football players. That's just like so outdated, that whole mentality.
Yeah, for sure.
Care about your people. That's all that's needed. And that's how I've had, through hell and high water between football and wrestling, wrestling in high school growing up, the amount of different coaches, and the ones that always resonated with me the most were the ones that I knew cared. They could be hard as hell on me, but they care. And to this very day, the people that are the hardest on me, but I know it's coming from a good place, I respond to the best. If you're hard on me, you don't actually care, or you could be good to me, but if you don't care about me, then I'm just like, miffed by that.
I've actually heard you say before, like, not coach me hard, but, give it to me straight. You know what I mean? Like, tell me.
I'll just go to you,
Yeah.
If I'm out of line, bro,
I've
let me know.
heard you say that before in those settings. But I think it speaks to, and that's a bigger thing, too, of leadership, right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. I know it's a head coach, but that's a leadership position in any industry. You can't necessarily blanket everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're speaking to.
And that's a good way to put it, yeah.
Where Vrabel sort of said, hey, if guys are dealing with stuff, let guys deal with that. He was probably a hardo on a lot of these cats, no matter what. Sort of blanket, tough guy, right?
Which
is
great.
what you're speaking to.
And that's my thing. You could coach me hard as hell.
Yes. Well,
I prefer that.
And I'm the same way. And that's probably why we get along. But not everyone's like that. And I guess my point is, when you are in a leadership position, if you want to be great, like Vrabel does, Vrabel wants to be one of the all-time greats. He's got to get Super Bowls, but that's what he wants. That's what drove him as a player. That's what drives him as a coach, George. If you want to do that, you can't blanket leadership. You can't blanket coach everyone the same way. Your message can be blanket, but the way you do it, the tactfulness that you do it, you need to sort of coach each player individually in that way. And I think that's what Landry's referring to.
Also, at one point, he goes, he's just one of the boys.
Yeah.
Player coach, man, different time in New England. Imagine anyone that was playing under Bill Belichick going, oh, Bill's just one of the boys. Well, they feared him. Bro, he loved him, though.
We knew Vrabes, as a coach, was one of the boys when you tell the story of the beer at Gillette.
No, that was in Brookline when the U.S. Open was there.
Oh, it was the U.S. Open? I thought it was in an event at Gillette.
The golf tournament in Brooklyn.
Tell it.
And I just did the shout out. He doesn't know me. And he still doesn't know me through a hole in the wall. But
we love you, Braves, if you want to come on.
And I go, Mike, having a good time? He goes, yeah, we'd be having a great time if I didn't have to wait 3 hours for an effing beer. I was like, that is awesome.
That's a dude.
That's my type of guy.
That's one of the dudes.
Coach me hard. Want that? You love me? I'll take it.
Yeah.
You coach soft, but you don't care about the person, no one's going to respond to that.
Amen.